not yet eligible for the vaccine here. Josefina Guerra is here with her two grandchildren. And they're going for their second shot, la segunda vacunación. Once parked, Dr. Trevino joins other doctors and nurses on the bus, where the shots and crying begin. Followed by gratitude from adults who got the shot too, like Josefina. Oh, you have hypertension and diabetes. So this is very important for you. Muy importante entonces para usted. On the way back, some of the kids show off. On your arm? ¿Y lloraste? You didn't cry. No lloraste. Eres fuerte. You're strong. Ah, you play baseball. That's why you're so strong. Nuevo Laredo's mayor, Carmen Lidia Canturosa, says the children's vaccination.
Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Welcome to Tuesday, Super Bowl week, and we've got a big Super Bowl story to talk to you about later this week. Tomorrow, as a matter of fact. This is really, really cool.
I'm very excited about that, Bill, and I'm excited for you to share with everyone how you ended up hearing about this story. So that will be fun to talk about.
It runs in the family, let's put it that way. keep you in suspense on that one.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we're going to be hearing from our Congressman Buddy Carter about the state of the situation as we get ready to hear what the president's going to lie to us about tonight. So he'll be there for about an hour and a half or so. Somebody will tell him, and maybe Dr. Jill will grab him by the hand and lead him away. What I'd like to see, Brittany, is all the Republicans to walk in with balloons.
I think that would be quite the skeptical thing to do, Bill. I mean, they need to make these statements. We need to have a lot more fun in the Republican Party, and I think that would do it for me.
Have McCarthy sitting back there with a big balloon, and as soon as Biden finishes his speech, just take a pin and go, pow! or maybe have an Air Force colonel come in and pop the damn thing.
I like it. Yeah. I like it. We do need to have more fun. I do think that would make it at least worth watching, right, Bill?
Yeah, because somebody asked, Ted Cruz was on last night with Jesse Waters on Waters on the Fox News channel, and Jesse suggested that he pop a balloon during the speech. He said, I don't think, I don't want the Secret Service to be driving me away. That's not a sound that they like to hear. But at the end, and when you see everybody with a balloon, you'd know what it is rather than mistake it for a gunshot or something along those lines. Yeah.
They might, I don't know, AOC might have PTSD from January 6th. So.
That's true. That's true. They all do. And it turns out, what was he, six blocks away?
Yeah.
Please. Congratulations to them. Other news from the Democrat Party right across the river here. South Carolina is now going to be the first primary. They have voted, the Democrat Party has said that South Carolina is going to be the opening primary rather than Iowa.
Interesting.
Because they said, it's because South Carolina has a more diverse population.
Very interesting. That's like breaking a huge tradition.
White. Yeah.
Well, and that's a huge breaking of tradition, which is what they like to do. So
true.
Makes sense in true fashion, Bill.
Because they said, Iowa, as wonderful as it is, it's mostly white, so it doesn't represent as many different parts of culture and everything. I can remember when a good friend of ours' son enlisted in the Air Force, and he was stationed in Minot, North Dakota with the B-52s. And he said, what was one of the first things you noticed? He said, an all-white McDonald's.
Well, and I will say, the further west you go as well, it's not as diverse. I think once you hit the coastal cities, I think that it's definitely more diverse. But
we celebrate diversity here.
Yes.
So South Carolina, congratulations. And the South Carolina Democrat representative said, this goes to show that the Democrat Party cares about all people.
well, and I'm trying to think.
You can't make this up.
Wasn't South Carolina one of the first places that Joe Biden won? Wasn't that the
deciding?
That was the deciding
start
factor.
Of it. Thanks to the Creighton, that's the congressman over there that put him in the race.
Yeah,
kept him in the race, and then he went over the top. Is that
who it is? Clyburn?
Yeah, Clyburn. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, South Carolina seems very familiar for me for the Democrat Party. So that's what it is.
For sure. There's that. And meanwhile,
Buddy Carter, he's probably going to take some heat tonight from the president with his fair tax bill, so excited to hear that. But we do have a briefing from Buddy this morning.
Yeah, let's see what he has to say.
Welcome to this week's edition of Buddy's Briefings. We're coming to you this week across the street from the U.S. Public Health Service building. This is one of the many historic buildings in Washington, D.C. In fact, it was headquarters for the U.S. Public Health Service from 1933 to 1942, and then again from 1946 to 1947. It's currently under renovation, but it's a beautiful building, one of many, as I say, historic buildings here in Washington, D.C. Now, why did we choose this building? Well, the reason why is the pandemic is over. That's right. We passed legislation this week in the House declaring the pandemic to be over. After all, Joe Biden extended the declaration for the emergency of the pandemic back in February of 2022. And in September of this past year, he actually said the pandemic was over, but it's still continuing on. Well, it's time for it to be over. Now, understand, COVID's still a problem. Yes, we recognize that, but there's no need to have the emergency declaration in place. Now, the president has said that he's going to discontinue it sometime in May. Well, we feel like it ought to be discontinued now. Also this week, we passed the Show Up Act. That's right. The Show Up Act will require federal employees to show up for work. I mean, after all, if you've called the VA or if you've called Social Security or the IRS lately, you know what a problem it is to get somebody to does is to say back to pre-pandemic hours, and that's what should be done. After all, they're getting paid to show up for work. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me.
What a concept, getting paid to show up for work.
Well, and
nice.
And I saw something posted. It was a view from the Capitol building. One of the staffers had gone back to work, and they're like, I haven't been here in almost 2 years. It's like, what? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's crazy to me that these people still haven't been back to work. I don't think people realize that. But it does make sense why you can never get a hold of anyone in the government.
I can attest to that from the fact that my wife was in a fender bender. Finally got her car back, by the way. It only took 6 months. Yeah,
it's more than 6 months, right?
To get it was
more than 6 months, wasn't
it? Well, we just got it back Friday, and it went in there middle of July. So.
Wow.
And the reason was they were waiting on parts from South Korea. So Hyundai, I'm glad you're coming to town and going to be making parts here. So maybe at least if we ever get in another accident with a Hyundai, then we won't have to wait for parts to come from South Korea, for God's sake.
Well, maybe, Bill, because do you think you'll still have the same parts as an electric car?
No. Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm just sorry they're building coal burners here.
Yes.
But the fact that we got those parts and we still have these transportation issues but Pete Buttigieg, our transportation secretary, is on it.
Is he?
Yeah, really. If he hadn't taken more maternity leave, I don't know what else he plans to do.
At least while he was gone, he wasn't doing any damage.
Totally incompetent boob, as everybody else is in this administration. But we digress. But one of the things that they're going to be talking about tonight, and one of the things that you're going to get hit with, is that they're still after 25 years or so still lying about the fair tax. Because one of the reasons that they don't like the fair tax is because it would do away with the Internal Revenue Service. There would still be an IRS, but you'd only need about 20 people just to make sure that the people's taxes, that the taxes were being taken care of properly, and that businesses might be doing, that might be looking for fraud and things of that nature. Because you're always going to have that. So that's so they won't be able to control the money. They won't be able to use that as a weapon, as they have been doing for the last 60, 70, 80 years since Social Security got started. And other and income taxes, where they started taking it out of your check before you got to see it. So that's the reason that the left doesn't like the fair tax. But this is the lie they've been telling about it the whole time. They're going to say that Buddy Carter wants to add another 30% to your taxes. No, wants to give you there's a 30% fair tax. In other words, you pay the tax when you buy something new. That's when you pay the taxes. And that's it. You will get all of your money. You won't be paying federal income tax anymore. April 15th will be another nice spring day. It won't be Christmas for the Infernal Revenue Service. So you get all of your money, and then you pay the tax when you buy something. Now, see, this gives everybody skin in the game. This means that Joe Schmo down in Urban Central is going to be paying it too.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden there'll be a more interest in where your tax money goes, and they want to compare it to. They say, well, in Europe, we were mentioning this just before we went on the air. That in Europe they have something called and this is something that the Democrats have still been wanting to do here, of giving a value added tax. Mm-hmm. In other words, a tax on top of the taxes we already pay. The fair tax is not that. The fair tax is you first of all take away all federal taxes and then you replace it with a 30% tax, because right now the federal government is taking about 40 to 50% of your paycheck.
It's hard to believe that, but if you had to write the check at the end of the year, you would be upset.
Oh boy, that's when tax reform would happen big time.
That's probably why they don't do it.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, and also you just start to add up like the property tax you pay. I mean, we're taxed probably 7-8 times on the same money.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So. Yeah, so we just got a notice, my wife and I just got notices that our taxes are going up on our Social Security check.
Well, and I believe that Joe Biden was one of the ones that voted for that, wasn't he?
I believe he was, yes, as a matter of fact.
You can fact check us on that, but I'm pretty sure.
Just remember, but it's interesting about the fair tax, because this is the first tax Democrats don't like. They've never not liked another tax.
That's a very interesting point, Bill. Why are they not for this? They're all about money.
When you hear the Democrats complaining about this, you know it's got to be good.
Yep, I agree with that, Bill. Mm-hmm. Well, and and we kind of talked about the flat tax a little bit too, and I think it's interesting as well. I think it's another option, but I do think that there has to be some sort of tax reform in this country. You can't continue to milk the middle class for everything they have and expect there to be any sort of thriving small businesses and things like that. Like, exactly. It just becomes harder and harder for us to function and then the left and the right, I think, can both agree on this. Large corporations are not the answer. I think that we're seeing the damage that they can do. And also, we saw the biggest transfer of wealth during COVID that benefited all of these businesses that could stay open, but yet small businesses couldn't. We really should think about that as we move forward as well.
And by the way, corporations shouldn't pay taxes in the first place. When we say we're going to tax them more, well, where do you think that they get that tax money? From the products that they sell.
Well, not only that, they still pay taxes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they still pay taxes. They still have properties that they pay.
Exactly.
There's plenty of other ways they get taxes from corporate companies. Mm-hmm. And I think people they also don't think about the risk that someone has to take to start a business. And it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for everyone. And so the fact that someone's willing to start a business and have employees, and people call it greed, but it's like, being responsible for other people's well-being and also making sure that they are getting paid enough money to take care of their families, that's a huge responsibility, and it's a big burden to take on. And I don't think people look at it that way, because, people are like, well, they start working for, let's say, a company like Starbucks, and they think that they should own part of Starbucks because they work there. And it's like, but you didn't take any of the risk, but you want all the reward. So Explain that to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, starting a business is, in fact, we got so many regulations now. I heard the co-founder of Home Depot was a guest speaker several years ago at the Skidaway Island Republican Club on their President's Day dinner, which is another one that's coming up, I think, next week. It may have even been last night. I don't get invited anymore, but nevertheless, he said you couldn't start Home Depot today. Home Depot was established in 1979, but he said with all the regulations that they have now, you could not start Home Depot today.
It's terrible what they've done, Bill. And they're protecting the big corporations is what they're doing.
Yeah. Protecting a lot of stuff. But it's mass stupidity on a big. But it's a living testament to the free enterprise system that it keeps surviving despite all the bungles that these idiots in Washington try to do to it. All right, coming up next, we're going to be talking to somebody special.
Her name is Jacqueline Harn, and she's with America for Prosperity, and she is going to be talking to us about some of the legislation that they're working on up at the Capitol.
That's on the way. Coming up next.
At Get Real America, we'd like to thank the Southeast Georgia Republican Assembly for all their efforts on making a difference in our communities.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Brittany Brown.
I'm Bill Edwards. Glad to have you aboard on this Tuesday morning. Also glad to have
Jacqueline Harn. I believe that we have her now.
Jacqueline?
Yes, Americans for Prosperity, Georgia.
Yeah, as Phil Donahue say, is the caller there?
Oh, there she is.
Ta-da! Through the wonder of electronics. Jacqueline, good morning.
Uh-oh, we're having a sound issue. Sorry, Jacqueline, just give us 1 second.
Can you hear me now?
Americans for Prosperity. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Yeah, of course. So Americans for Prosperity, we are one of the largest grassroots organizations in the country. We are currently actually, we just added 2 states, so we're currently in 38 states. And our big movement is that we empower people to get involved in their communities, get involved in their local politics, and get involved in government to make a difference for everyone. One of our big notions is that we work with anyone to do good, and so we try to empower our communities to do exactly the same. One of those reasons that we do this is we get involved in legislative session, pushing for policies forward that help small businesses and help your average Joe down the street thrive in the community they live in.
That you guys are working on Stop the Con, I think is what the hashtag is.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, for the certificate of need for hospitals. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So it is hashtag #IntoCon. Certificate of need is essentially a government permission slip that any provider has to get approved before the government in order to open a practice, expand that practice, or even just add new technology to their existing practice. It's one of the most corrupt, big government, outdated programs that we currently have in Georgia, and it has to go. We are spending most of our efforts this session working to repeal that. We have a couple bills coming up the pipeline that have full repeal and also some reform as well, leaving out long-term care facilities. But it's just one of those outdated big government programs that harms everyday people. We have an instance in Augusta, Georgia, where Katie Chubb tried to open a birthing center because there's not one in her area. She herself had to drive about the 150-mile drive to Atlanta just to give birth in a birthing center. Her CON, when she tried to open it, was originally approved, but because of competitors' veto, so all the other hospitals in the area that are worried about the competition, they vetoed it and appealed it and said, no, we don't want her here because we technically offer a duplicate service. When in reality, they don't offer the same service that a birthing center does. And a mother should have choices of where she needs to give birth or where she wants to give birth. So that's one example of many that we see where CON is harming everyday Georgians.
Jacqueline, one of the things that I was interested
I believe I may have lost you, Bill.
I didn't know. Can you hear me?
Now I can, I believe. Yes, it's
Okay.
better now.
I love modern technology.
Of
So
course.
what? So larger hospitals are trying to uh, prevent this because they're afraid of competition.
Yes, it's exactly going against the capitalist system. They
Yeah.
are allowed a competitor's veto to say, no, we're worried. We don't want to lose the money. We don't want to lose those patients. So, no, we don't want you here. There's a statistic of about a 35-mile radius that technically that applies to. But we've seen that go here nor there. Sometimes they're within 25 miles. Sometimes they're past that. There's no real consistency
Provide
there.
that service, then why would they be worried about whether that was competition or not?
Exactly. That's the big thing. So they just don't want to lose the patients. Like I said, with the birthing center story, they don't want any other people or any of the businesses in their communities um, coming in and taking their patients. It's as simple as that. And there's a big pushback as far as in rural communities, closed because of it. But in a lot of these communities, the capital is not already there as far as to open up a lot of these small businesses. So you're not going to see hospitals close. The Mercatus Center, so associated with GW, put out a study where we're missing out on about 74 hospitals in Georgia because of CON. 27 of those would be in rural areas. So you're not going to be taking away hospitals from some of these folks in rural areas. You're going to be adding to them.
So we heard about a bunch of hospitals closing in Atlanta, and it seems to be, I think there were two, and that seemed to be a big deal. Is this at all related?
It is. So you're talking about Wellstar in Atlanta. That did close, and there's some political movement behind that. A lot of people are saying that was probably closed to end up harming Governor Kemp's race for governor. But the real aftermath and where con comes in, certificate of need comes in, is that you're not going to get another hospital to replace that right away because of this certificate of need outdated program. Not only if someone comes in outside of that to try to apply for that, how long it's going to take because of just the process itself. Like, for example, right now with certificate of need applications, there's about $300 billion tied up in that in Georgia right now. Not only are we missing out on like $700 million of investments into the healthcare system in Georgia, anyways, but you're going to see a replacement hospital right away because of that certificate of need program.
Well, so how much support are you getting from the Republican and Democrat senators and Congress people up there?
We're getting actually a lot of support because, again, constituents in these legislators' areas, um, they're hearing it. I mean, constituents are living this day in, day out. And we say that Georgia is the number one state to do business. I believe it's the ninth year in a row that we've gotten that title. Programs like Certificate of Need are harming that and not allowing small providers to open up. The government is picking and choosing who survives um, and who's basically cut to the wayside. So we're seeing a lot of support for it. Like I said, due to some of the chaos stuff at the Capitol right now, like always, there's like a record number of bills that are in the pipeline this year that legislators are saying. So it's chaotic as always. But we're going to see some legislation come up. We're looking at anywhere from 2 to 3 bills from both the House and the Senate. So we're going to get it done. We're going to get it done, definitely.
Jacqueline, on another note, there was something about an education bill that passed yesterday. I believe that you wanted to talk about this morning. What's that all about?
So there's a couple. As far as education, we're waiting for a school choice bill to come through the pipeline. It's still in the drafting process, so that should be dropping soon, and that will probably be dropping on the Senate side. What dropped yesterday in the House was a niche beauty services bill. So you're talking. I remember when I was listening before I joined the segment, talking about regulations, right? The beauty service industry is one of those that's super highly regulated, and it doesn't necessarily need to be. When we're talking about niche beauty services, we're talking makeup, your makeup done for an event, braiding, is for certain. Right now, they have to go through cosmetology school, so spend thousands of dollars on that schooling, when in reality, half of that they're not going to be able to use for their business. So we're trying to cut down licensing for that reform so they don't have to get that license. They don't have to go through that schooling if they're just blow drying hair, if they're just braiding hair. So that dropped yesterday. We attempted it last session as well. We got close. So hopefully we have the support this go around that we're going to make that happen. And again, help small businesses, small entrepreneurs, help them thrive. I think I lost you again, Bill. Sorry. Modern technology.
Go through.
Oh, I heard the end of that. Can you put that one more time? Sorry about that.
That's okay. How optimistic are you that this is going to go through?
We're very optimistic. We're going to get a ton of grassroots support around this. And one of the big things that we're able to do because of the resources is we're able to go out to communities and find people that this affects. We work very closely with Georgia Public Policy Foundation. And not only do they publish like booklets every year to give to legislators, they help us find these individuals in the community to reach out to. So whenever this bill comes up before a committee, they can give testimony on it and actually tell their real story. And that goes a long way for these legislators. Or even just writing postcards from activists saying, yes, I attempted to open my own business, but because of this regulation, because of this license, I wasn't able to. And if a legislator is receiving like 20, 30 of those handwritten notes on their desk, it means a lot. It means a lot of difference. Makes a lot of difference. So we're really hopeful this session to get that through.
Yeah. Do you have any other things that you guys are focusing on this session, or mostly education and this certificate of need legislation?
Certificate of need is our main priority focus, with probably education coming second. We have a couple of other bills dropping too that are more niche oriented bills. But certificate of need is going to take everyone. It's going to take our full priority. And that's why we're reaching out into communities as well. If you go to our website, intheconga.com, you'll be able to see examples of where this is taking place throughout Georgia. I didn't even mention there's a county in Southwest Georgia that has one hospital. The county's name is escaping me right now, but they're able to control the prices that they're charging for this healthcare that they're offering county residents, and they're able to charge whatever they want rocking in that area. And again, that's a certificate of need issue. So if you go to, like I said, intheconga.com, you'll be able to see all those resources. And of course, all of our social media platforms is always AFP Georgia. So you'll be able to keep up with us there and see exactly how we're doing.
Okay, and is there any action item that you would like people to take on End the Con?
Exactly that. So if you go to that website that I mentioned, there is a petition on there that you can sign. And if they're interested, feel free to please reach out through social media to us. I'm the one that normally monitors that. And we love to have people either write letters to the editor, to their local paper, saying how important this is and how much they want to see this pass. Again, signing that petition. If you're a spokesperson at local GOP meetings or libertarian meetings or chamber meetings, talking about this issue and really getting community engagement around it, because that's what's going to push us over at the end of the day.
Very good. Where do they get in touch with you, Jacqueline?
So you go to intheconga.com or go to Twitter and Facebook, AFP Georgia, and you'll be able to
find us there. Sure appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Have a good day.
Perfect. Thanks so much. You too.
All right. So Jacqueline Harn, quite an erudite young lady.
Yes.
And wow, what a great
cause. And she
is
from this area. So
yeah.
She is from Savannah, and she is taking on the world up there in Atlanta. So.
Good for her.
Yes.
God knows we could use it. All right.
Yes. More young people.
Yeah, for
More
sure.
young people getting
Absolutely.
involved.
Coming up next,
we are going to be talking with Anthony Burton, who, he is running for the DA here. He also has a lot to say about what's going on. So we'll talk about that next.
Yeah, crime in Savannah. Next.
At Get Real America, we want to promote your business to our conservative audience.
At Get Real America, we want to make sure that the real story gets out, and you can help us as a sponsor or as an advertiser to make sure that that word does get out to the community.
Be a sponsor and support your local community here at Get Real America.
I don't think it's an accident that I ended up writing music for a living, because I think I lived in a house where I saw how deeply it affected everyone in the house. And just how much everyone defined themselves by the music they listened to.
Music as a framework, I think, gave my parents my identity from a young age. You can like any music that you want if it makes you feel happy. And now when I hear certain songs, I think of them, and I think of them in their happiest state, and it makes me happy.
If they seem like they're having trouble talking about something, I try to tell them about a time when I felt something similar.
Whatever the issue was, we would tell them the pros and cons and how important it was, and that they had come to us because we could always help them. I think the real important point, we always told them, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, we will help you through it no matter what it is.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Tuesday. Here it is, the 7th day of February, a week away from Valentine's Day.
Oh my goodness. The time is flying really quick for you, Bill.
It certainly is. And crime is getting so much better in Savannah. By that I mean the crime is getting more. It's getting better for the criminals.
Yes, it is.
Thanks to our George Soros elected and paid for district attorney, who's nothing about crime in.
Yeah, and I was able to sit down with Anthony Burton last week and have a conversation with him about some of the things that he's seeing going on, and some of his frustrations. So let's get with Anthony.
Yeah, and Anthony is going to be running. I guess he's made it pretty clear he is running for district attorney to try to unseat this woman that's destroying our justice system right here in Chatham County, as George Soros elected officials are all over the country.
Yeah,
we're finding out why when the media and a lot of other people were asking, why is George Soros putting so much money into these local races? Well, now we know.
Yes, the other race that we really need to watch out for is the sheriff's race. The sheriff's race and the DA, man, those are two really, really important roles that we do not talk about, and I didn't realize how important they were until we saw what happens when both of those turn into Soros people. Mm-hmm. It is a disaster. Good
luck here in Chatham County if Johnny Wiltshire decides to run again, because he's been elected by about 83% of the vote the last couple of times he's run anyway, and been sheriff here for a long time. In fact, been with the sheriff's office for about 50 years, and he has done a marvelous job. Still needs deputies, by the way, in case you're looking for work.
Yeah. We're really trying to help them out.
Yeah, I think they're only 150 short or something like that. So, Anthony Burton, tell us, let's hear what he had to say to us last week.
My name is Anthony Burton, and for the past year, I've been speaking out against the corruption of Shalina Cook-Jones and her administration in the DA's office. But last night was the first time that I feel anyone in the media has listened to what I've had to say. And there was an investigative report called Deals Cut with Killers, in which WTOC looks into the large number of...
Yeah, so that's him actually talking about a story that was done about the DA, in which she only gave WTOC 10 minutes of her time, and then she quickly, when they started asking hard questions, she quickly was like, I'm...
They did a superb, I mean, network quality investigation into our DA's office. And so when they started asking the religions, I don't know if that's what she expected, if she expected a friendly media or something like that, which most of these people usually get, she was not happy with it. So that 10-minute interview sort of truncated into about 5 or 6. But they took the ball and ran with it and did a superb job.
Yes, they got a lot of statistics, and we're asking her why she is allowing a lot of these crimes to be. And I will say, Jesse Petrie, our representative, one of our representatives down here, he's supporting a bill to us be able to remove DAs when they're not doing their job, and they're also going to start an oversight committee, commission, which will cost us some money, but I think in the long run we're going to see. We're going to get what citizens deserve, and that is to be protected by our officials that are elected to serve us and make sure that they keep our community safe. And I think that he's doing a really good thing by supporting that legislation. And, I just wanted to give him a shout out because I think that that's really, really important, especially for us locals here in Chatham County.
Yeah. So, Anthony, what else did Anthony have to say? Here it is.
Welcome back to Get Real America. Today we have Anthony Burton in studio, which is always one of my favorite segments that we do here at Get Real America. Thanks and welcome back, Anthony.
Well, thanks. I'm always happy to be here.
Yes, and there's always something new for you to tell us. What is going on in this? Number one, Anthony is running for DA for 2024, so make sure you mark your calendars. I know it's a while away, but we need him in this DA seat. I mean, this woman has done a number on Chatham County. So, Anthony, what is going on this week?
So, sadly, I never get to come and talk to you about any good news. And it's another one of those types of days. So, just last week, they had another violent murder that was pled down to manslaughter. And when I say it's a violent murder, this was a known gang member. He was a enforcer, from what I heard from talking to the family, which is basically the one who is in the gang and they say this person needs to die, and he goes out and does it. His name was Carlton Talley. That's public record. He was a convicted felon, violent. He took the victim and executed him on the side of the road. And after that, he sat in he sat in jail waiting for a trial. COVID hit, Shalina hit. You can decide which one was worse for the courts. And he never got a trial because Shalina and her administration pled him down to manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter, for an execution-style murder. And he was given 25 due 12. So 12 years to serve, 4 years already in the jail, and he will be eligible for parole. And after doing 4 years in jail, he will almost immediately end up having a parole hearing. Now, given his violence, his record, and the charges against him, I don't think that he will get parole. I think he'll end up probably doing 80% of his current sentence. So, -4, 80% of 12 years, he'll have about 9 to 10 years. So he'll do about maybe 5 more years, maybe 6, if we're lucky. And then he'll be out, and he will be in the streets with the rest of us. And I tell you, oftentimes, the DA's office, when I say they victims, they don't get their input. This family was involved. This family was there in the courtroom, and the mom, the brother, and the sister all took the stand and basically said that they were unhappy with this. The brother said, this is not right. This should not be a plea. A life deserves a life. He's correct. The idea that you would give someone just a few years for killing someone, execution style, is insane to me. But not insane with them. I know we've all seen the stories of the multiple murders pled down. And I think that was the WTOC that they ended up doing that one, and they haven't stopped. So that was 20 plus pleas to murder reduced down to manslaughter in 2020, and they are in high gear for 2021. I'm aware of already 3 that they've done, and we're not through January at the time of talking about this. But they had the mom take the stand, and I tell you, I've been doing this for a long time. I have seen everything, and I won't get into what I think you got a family. I don't need to talk about the different murders and things that I've seen people do. But mom got to me. I got a little, I think there's something in my eye. I need to, when she was up there and she looks at Carlton Talley, the defendant, and she says, "You're going to get out. You're going to see your mom. All I'm ever going to have is pictures." And after that plea and after begging and saying that the DA's office was doing the wrong thing and telling the judge, no, this needs to go to trial, the plea was accepted, and he's going to be out in a few years.
So in a normal case like this, what would you normally see if we weren't seeing all of this stuff being pled down?
What you would see, and what was deserved, is life without parole. He would never get out. And the family would not have to risk, 5-6 years from now being at the store and seeing their son's killer.
And is there a concern with someone with this kind of history that they would go back to doing the same thing they were doing before they were in prison?
Yes. It all escalates. So when you see from his record, he is a violent criminal felon. And he didn't start out murdering people, but he sure got there. And if you think that that is going to change once he got a slap on the wrist for taking a life, it's not. He's going to be right out there again. He's going to be the enforcer for the gang. They're going to find someone else that they want dead. And hey, he's good at this. Last time he did it, all he got was 10 years. Let's hire him on again. It's insane that the people in the DA's office don't see this, but it's putting everyone in danger. And that family is going to have to live with the fact that he will probably do this again until he does. And until an actual DA gives him what he deserves. Life behind bars, like the animal that he is.
So what happens in these cases? Let's say, what if you get into the DA's office? Is there anything that you can do with these cases that have all been pled down? Or is it kind of, you just have to take the reins and move forward and make sure that you prosecute cases at a higher level when you take over?
There is nothing that can be done once the case is closed. Once that plea is in, that's what stays. And all that we can do is for the cases going forward. Like I said, he is going to reoffend. You do not want Shalina in that office to let him off again. You need someone in there that is going to put in bars where he can't hurt anyone. When I was a prosecutor, and I still am a prosecutor down in Brunswick, but when I was a prosecutor here in Chatham County, my motto was always, I want to close out the case to where I never have to see you in a courtroom again. And that means if you were a drug addict, maybe we give you rehab. If you have a bunch of shopliftings or something like that, what is the problem? Do you have a mental illness? Do you need to get a job? Do you need to finish school? What is it? Anything that we can do to where I don't need to see you again. But there are people like Carlton Talley that the only way that you will never see them in a courtroom again is putting them in prison and keeping them there as long as you can.
So are you seeing more outrage over these cases it seems like we're seeing them at least weekly now of different things that she's doing that is impacting the ability to prosecute and the ability for these people to go to prison for the amount of time they should be going to prison?
So it's not stopping. It's only coming in faster. They're taking all of these violent cases and they are pleading them down to nothing. And I don't know if it's the directive. I don't know if it's the lack of leadership that nobody cares. I don't know if it's laziness, because a murder trial is hard. And if your boss doesn't care how you close out a case, you are, a lazy person. moral, or someone that just doesn't care about victims. You know, if your boss doesn't care, why are you going to work harder? You get the same paycheck at the end of the week, whether you pled it down to vehicular manslaughter or manslaughter, or if you give in prison sentence. So I can't tell you why they continue to do it. I have my own theories. I know that the DA that, or the ADA that she had do this case and has done many of these plea downs is the former chief public defender, Michael Edwards. And I'm guessing he probably has some type of moral issue with giving violent criminals what they deserve. He thinks everyone should get, you know, a hug and do better. Best wishes. I don't know if that's why it is, but I know that something is very, very wrong with what they're doing, and it's hurting the entire community, and it's hurting victims.
Well, and you said were you a family about this?
I talk with someone in the family. I don't want to bring them into it too much because you know they want enough, so I'm not going to say names or anything like that. They did. They said that they looked over my Facebook and what I stand for and everything. They said they're going to make sure that people know for me because this is not right. And we had a long conversation, and one of the things that stuck out to me was they had a lot of questions about what the process was and what was going to happen. You should not leave the courtroom without every one of your questions being answered. That is your job as the DA's assistant, is you are there to serve victims, and if they have, you answer them. But I can tell why they didn't want to answer too many of their questions, because the questions they did have answered, they lied to them about. So one of the things, he said, you know, well, when I talked to Michael Edwards, he said he's going to do at least another 8 years in jail or in prison. And I said, you know, I'm sorry, sir, but that's not true. And they made him parole eligible. So once he gets, he'll almost immediately be eligible hearing. Now, they're going to look at his record. They're going to go through and see what this crime was, go over police reports, stuff like that, and they're going to say, no, this person is not getting out after just being in jail for 4 years. But they'll probably make him do 80% of his sentence, which that's 12 years, 80%, that's between 9 and 10 years. He's already done 4. So you're looking at 5 or 6 years? 5 or 6 years for murder.
Wow. I mean, people get that on a drug charge, don't they? I mean,
you know, under former DAs, drug dealers could get something like that. Never anything for drug possession. I can count how many people I sent to prison for drug possession. It was 2, and both of them out. So, but yeah, I'm getting offers. I do defense work now, and they are significantly higher than people are getting for murder. And it makes it complicated on the defense side, because I will go in and I say, look, they want 10 years for your drug sale. And they will say, I just saw a murderer get 10 years. Are you telling me that me selling a cocaine is just as bad as a murder? And I say, I'm not saying it. That's what the DA's office is saying. I just relay the message. And they're not wrong to be upset about that. But the way to fix it isn't to go in and say, well, let's lower everything down. It's to start treating murders the way they need to be treated. They deserve life. Just like I said, the brother of the victim in the Hallie case said, a life deserves a life. And he's not wrong. And when they're not doing this, it's making it more complicated for the entire system.
So these are the reasons that you're running for DA. Can you tell us one thing that you would do differently? I think that's good for the audience to know, because I know they're going to want to vote for you in 2024.
What I would do differently, and I have to say this, the difference between myself and Shalina Cook-Jones is we're going to put victims first. There will not be victims who don't know what's going on. There will not be victims that are not contacted. There will not be victims that will not be heard in court if they want to be heard. We're going to put victims first. That's the whole purpose of a DA's office.
Well, Anthony Burton, thank you so much for coming in. Unfortunately, I think that we'll be meeting again soon with more updates, but I think it's good for people to know what's going on and why this DA role is so important, and also what kind of turmoil it's causing in our own county here in Chatham. So
always happy to come back. Thank you.
gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care can keep families together. Pets and people. Learn more at together.org.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
Going down the home stretch here, Bill Edwards here with you.
Yep, and I'm Brittany Brown, and we have our friend Lizzie Warren who tunes in quite regularly, and she left us a couple comments this morning. By the way, you both show expansive knowledge of current events and an understanding of the intended and unintended consequences of political decisions.
That's us.
Yes, to a T. And then she also says there must some ironclad language that guarantees the tax percentage can never be raised. That is the concern of many. The tax rate will creep up on us over time.
Yeah, that's all part when she's referring to the fair tax, whereas it's 30%. That will go into the bill. Ironically, when they passed the federal income tax to begin with, they came within an eyelash of voting it to be only 3%. Said no, it will never exceed 3%. That was the lie they took. So they've been lying to us for a long time. When you lie to Congress, it's a big deal. When they lie to you all the time, ain't no big deal. Well, we got our fingers crossed.
Yeah, and probably one of the biggest mistakes that's cost us a lot, Bill, is not putting in that 3%.
And they said because the reason that they didn't pass it was because they said they'd probably go to it right away, but the American people wouldn't stand for it. Yeah, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Look what we have. And by the way, Russia did the communists put a cap on theirs. You realize there's no cap on our federal income tax? They could take all of it next week if they wanted to.
It's absolutely ridiculous, Bill.
And then send you a bill for more of it.
Yeah, work more hours, figure it out.
I remember it was one of the great comedians of all time, Red Skelton, said he got his check the other day that said it was no dollars and no cents. He said, I didn't think it was a mistake. He said, I figured taxes had finally caught up with my salary. and that was 60 years ago when he was saying stuff like that. So it's nothing new that they're doing to take your money and we have some very, very ungrateful illegal aliens, as a matter of fact. That are getting ready to head to Canada. I don't know if they've come from a very tropical climate. I don't know how much they're going to like it up there in with that man-child that runs that place. But they're sick and tired of the crime in New York City. You can't make this stuff up. So they come from these. So if the crime in New York City is too much for these illegal aliens that said they came here because their life was threatened, you've got to ask a question or two.
Yeah, well, and Bill, the thing that is so interesting to me is that people don't, because Americans are also this way, we think we're entitled to so much. I don't think that people see an issue with the fact that these people came into our country illegally.
Yeah.
They expect the taxpayer to pick up the tab, and then they're going to complain about the conditions in which they're living. And, I don't recall the guy's name, but he wrote an op-ed, and he talked about how He came into this country with nothing, and he worked his way up in a construction company, became a superintendent, and then ended up owning his own construction company. But he said...
That's the story of America all the way around.
Exactly. But he's like, you work hard, and if you persevere, like, you can have the things that you want in this country. And that's what's so great about it. But you're not entitled to it.
And the people who came here legally and wanted to be Americans learned English, in many cases changed their name so it would sound more American or not so foreign or whatever, or more difficult for us to pronounce because we've never heard these names before. They are the ones who are upset about the fact that we did this legally, and you're just letting these people in willy-nilly without asking any questions and telling them they're entitled to all this stuff that we worked hard to get.
Well, and I also think that it's interesting. There's a huge crime problem in El Salvador, and I don't know if you've heard this, but they actually have been mass imprisoning people into El Salvador prisons. But when these people get out, they flee and come to the U.S. over our border. So that's very exciting. I don't think this is anything new. I think that countries have always pushed their criminals up this way.
But we did hear from the border czar yesterday, where she said she's still working on the root causes of these problems. As we got to get to these, I couldn't actually believe that this cretin actually said to get to the root causes of it. We've had 2 years, dear, and just to let you know how bad she is as a vice president, you know who's calling her out now? The New York Times. The Democrats are now saying that this woman is not qualified to be, certainly isn't qualified to be the president. So she can't even run her own office, much less how could she run the country. And the New York Times and Democrats have actually said they want that she's not competent. Meanwhile, the illegal aliens who are here in New York City, were staying in $500 a night hotel rooms with free food that they were throwing out because they didn't like it.
It needed to be hot, Bill.
Yeah.
It needed hot food.
Oh yeah. Well, pass the violin. They're now going to Canada, and guess who's paying for that?
That would be the U.S. taxpayer.
I believe it is. Yeah. They're getting on buses to go to Canada. Well, good luck and up there, because I don't know how safe you're going to be, because the man-child that's in charge of that asylum now is banned gun sales. So good luck.
Well,
See ya.
Maybe they'll take care of the cartels up there.
Yeah. Good and good riddance. But we are seeing more and more people come across that Canadian border. What do you know? What a surprise! The southern border is so